Hi, I'm Trev Hutchings, and this is the Ujam Virtual Guitar instrument, Sparkle. Now, during April in 2025, Ujam are giving away the virtual guitar instrument, Sparkle, absolutely free. So I've downloaded a copy of it, and I'm just going to go through it quickly to give you some idea of what this free virtual guitar instrument is like. So first up, if you're bringing it into something like Cakewalk, you're going to want to add a MIDI track, and then you're going to want to add the VG Sparkle. And in Cakewalk 2, on my machine at least, and so it should be in theory on your machine too, in the plugins instruments section, you should see a folder called Synth. And if you double click on that, yeah, I've got loads of stuff in here, but you should see that VG Sparkle 2 has been installed and is here. And then if you double click on VG Sparkle, it'll install as an instrument track. Now I've already done that, so I'm just going to close off the plugins section by pressing B on my keyboard. And I'm going to come back over this side here to MIDI, the MIDI track header, and I've just clicked on the MIDI track header to select the MIDI track. And down the bottom here on this strip section, the first strip on the left is the MIDI track, and you'll see down here in the input section I've just put in my controller, which happens to be a Complete Control M32, and in the output section I've clicked on the VG Sparkle 2. So now the MIDI track will send MIDI notes to VG Sparkle. Now if I double click on this image here, I can pull up the VG Sparkle, and this is what it basically looks like. Now it looks quite complicated to begin with, but I'm going to try and go through this as quickly as possible. The first thing that I'm going to show you here is this section here, which represents the keyboard. And if I press on one of these, they're notes. That's C, D, E, and then we've got the sharps or flats, whichever you want to call them, up the top here. So they're the notes you're going to play, and if you're using a keyboard, that will be from C3 all the way up here to what's this, C, D, E, F, F5, F5, yes. And here I've got a keyboard, and if I play up here, then we've got it. Now the other two sections we've got here, this section here and this section here, these are the ones for the strumming. Now this first section here is the common phrases, and with all the different virtual guitar instruments that are in Sparkle, the common phrases will always stay the same. So if I select the one here, which you can do by pressing C1 on your keyboard, and then play this section up here, a strumming sound, and if I go over it, you'll see it comes up and says muted 1/4. So it's playing 1/4 beat in a muted style. Now if you want to see what all of these ones are, you can click on where it says keyboard here, and it'll bring them up, and this will show you all the different common phrases. So you'll see here that the C0 on the keyboard and this one here is silent. So if you press on that one and then play the keyboard, you'll hear nothing because it stopped the notes from playing. Then you got the standard open one here. So if we press on that one, so it's playing once every bar. And up here is like the C1 I had was the muted one. And if we go back from that to about here, we should get it playing on every note. Now up the other end, we've got two last ones here, slide down and pick slide. So if I click on the slide down and then press on a key, I get that. And if I press on this one here and then press on a key, I get that scratching of a guitar string sound. Okay, I don't want this help section open anymore, so I'm going to press on the X key, the X icon here. So that's the basics of those there. Now this section here, the style phrases, they will generally change when you change the guitar, but you can also change them as part of the styles. So here we've got this section called style. If I press on, say, this one here, and then play keyboard, you can hear that we've got a particular pattern playing. And if I then press on one of these arrows here, I can change the style. And now I've got a different pattern. And I can keep clicking on it until I find a pattern I like. Let's go back down. And you'll notice at the beginning of the style, you've got written here on this one, 160 BPM. So that's the suggested speed you should set the tempo of the song to. Mine's set at 120, so it's not playing quite as fast as it was designed to be played. And the second section here, my direction, is just the name of the pattern. So that is the basic section here. And you got two left on the end here, which are the, probably depending on your keyboard, there'll be the pitch bend and the mod controller. And if I use them on here, you can see that with the force, if I push the force up and then play, and then do it without, just put it down, you can hear that what's actually changed is it's playing softer when it's pressed, when I pull it down, and it's playing more aggressively when I push it up, so it's being played with more force. The dampener, or damp as they call it here, if I play a key with it as it is, I'm getting an open key. But if I press on the damp and move up, you'll see I get a muted sound. So I can kind of change between them, and this is a way of just supposedly seamlessly going between the different sounds. And it works pretty well. So those are the basic playing techniques. Now, we've also got another thing we can do with the keys here, and that is Sparkle. It recognizes up to 4 notes being played. So over here you can see we've got chord written near chord mode. If I click on that drop list there and click on note and then play, it still plays the pattern, but it's only 1 note. If I put it back to chord, and you'll see here where it says chord, if I press on a note again, it says I'm playing a power chord in the power. I'm playing the power chord C. Now if I press 2 keys, I'm now playing the power chord plus an extra, and you'll see that it says something different here now. It's going to say, so that's the C power chord plus 3. And it also recognizes 3 keys. So if I press 3 keys down, instead of getting the power chord, I get a simple major chord. In this case, I'm pressing the standard 3 keys for a C chord, so I get this simple C chord. Now I can also go one step further, and I can press 4 keys, and if I press the 3 keys from the standard chord and then an extra key from that standard chord, so in this case I'm pressing C, E and G for a C chord, and then I can go and add a higher C, and I'm getting a full guitar chord being played. But I don't actually have to add the C, I can actually do it with the G as well. So if I do 2 Gs instead of 2 Cs this time, it's intelligent enough to know that I'm trying to play a C chord on the guitar, and it plays the same chord irrespective of whether I'm playing 2 Gs or 2 Cs. Now we've also got, if you're not very good at understanding chords, or not very good at playing the guitar, music's something you do, but you're not very well versed in music theory, you can click on this drop down list where it says key, and if I click on that and then go down and click on this C one, and then if I play a power chord now just by pressing 1 key, if I press the C one, I'm now playing a C major chord, and if I go up and press E, that's playing an E minor chord, which is part of the key scale of C, or key scale of A minor. Now if I change that to D and then press the 2 again, if I press on C, once again it's C major because that's part of the key scale of D. Now let's have a look at E. That's E minor as well, so I'm choosing the wrong ones here. There, see, if I go up to F, I've got an E sus4. But if I push that back down, if I change that back down to C and then press the F one again, I've got an F major chord. So there you are, yeah. That's the difference. It will play whatever notes you play on your keyboard, it will always change them into a chord from that key scale. I'm just going to turn that back off. Okay, so that's just the basic range down the bottom there. So let's have a look at the actual instrument itself. Well, straight up at the top here, we've got this bit here that says Cool World, which is the sound or the guitar that's been played at the moment. And we can click on these arrows here, and if I click on this arrow here now, it changes it to crunchy roll. So if I play a note now, I've got a different guitar. And I'm just going to run through a few of them so you get an idea of what you can get out of this. Now, you might have noticed that when I'm changing this guitar, there are a couple of things that are changing in the process of this. One is the style down here is changing. And the other thing that's changing is this section here. So let's have a look at this section here now. So we've got the first one here, which is the pickup. On a guitar, you have two pickups and they sound slightly different. So you've got one that's on the neck and you've got one that's on the bridge. Now, I'm not going to go into where they are, but let's just hear how different they sound when I move, when I press on the knob and drag up and down. And when the marker line is about halfway between the two, what you're getting is both the bridge and the neck. And as you drag it towards the neck, you get more and more of the neck and less of the bridge. And the same if you move it the other way, you get more and more of the bridge and less of the neck. Now the next one we've got here is this tune. It's quite simple really. Tune is tuning the guitar. So you can quite literally go up, say, and you've kind of made the guitar slightly out of tune. But you can go up semitones and actually transpose by doing so. I'm going to bring that back down to 0, hopefully. There we go. Next up, we've got this one here, which is variance. Now, variance is to do with how the strings are played. So when a guitarist plays a guitar, he strokes down or strokes up the strings. And you can't play all the strings at the same time because they are physically separated in reality from each other. So there is a slight delay between picking on each of those strings. And what variance does is, if I click on the variance knob and drag all the way up, so it says 100, the distance between each of those strings being played will now be at the maximum. So it's like it's taking longer to go between each string. And if I click on it again, if I press on the knob again and drag down and bring it down to 0, then the timing between each of those strings being played has now been brought down to the minimum. So if I play now, it's kind of more human the more you go towards 100. And it also starts to add a little bit more string noise. I'm going to set that back to about 30-ish. Let's go with 34. Now next up we've got this one here which says character, and character is kind of how you hit the strings. So if we go here, we've got a fat, which is quite a powerful, full-blooded sound, quite dirty if you like. Soft, well, that's a bit more like using your fingers. Bite is kind of cleanish pick, I suppose, and twang is that very sort of very quick picking type sound. So if we go now, go through those ones. You can hear that they go from a kind of quite trebly sharp sound down to a more muddy sound. Now next up over here we've got this amp section, and if I put that all the way up here, direct is with no amp, and then you've got these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different amp styles that you can use with this guitar. So if I press now and go through those, go back up to clean. Now next up we've got this drive. Now drive is overdrive, so obviously the further I put, if I press on it and drag up and take it to 100, that will give maximum distortion. And if I press on it and bring it down all the way to 0, then there'll be no overdrive, so we won't be adding any distortion. Other things that we've got here, focus is EQ. So there are basically 4 types of EQ in here. And if I drag it, if I press on the knob and drag it all the way down, and then play, and then slowly drag it up all the way up to the other end, then you'll hear the different EQs. So the further it is round to the right, it's brighter, and the further it is round to the left, the darker it is. Now the thing is, rather than just giving you those 4 EQs, the idea of putting it on a knob is so that you can blend between the different ones, so you can get much more accurately to the sound you're looking for. Now volume is pretty straightforward. That's just simply volume, and you can just move the volume so you can make it louder, or you make it quieter. Pretty straightforward, that one. Width, if I turn width off by dragging it down, then you'll basically get like a mono sound out of it. And if I press on the knob and drag up, you'll get a wider stereo sound of the guitar. Now 2 other things that we got in here is the Stomp and the Finisher. And if I turn these off, this is what the guitar sounds like without them on. And if I turn the Stomp on, currently got this flanger on it. And next to the Stomp box is this mount knob. And if I press on that knob and drag it all the way down to its 0, effectively we won't have any stomp on at all. So this is kind of a mixed knob. It mixes how much of the stomp is added to the sound. And I'll just quickly go through some of these sounds. Right, I'm going to leave that on the adaptive filter because that's quite a distinctive one. And then we've got the finisher, and the finisher is more, the stop box is like the typical foot pedals you'll have with a guitar. The finisher is more like rounding up the sound afterwards. So if I click on this button here to turn the finisher back on, and here we've got this amount knob for it. So once again, if I press on the knob and drag it all the way down, it will turn the finisher off. And if I drag up on the amount knob, it'll increase the amount of the finisher on it. In this case, a dual rotary chorus. And if I just run through a few of those. Now beyond that, we've also got this section here, which is micro tuning. So if I click on that, we get these things here. Now, player sync controls how much influence you have on it changing. So if I change notes, it's synced to the note at the moment, so it will kind of change on the note. But if I go down here and put it down to 8, or let's go 16th, and do the same. I have more control over when it changes between the notes. And the second section here is speed. So this is how fast the pattern is. So this is the normal speed. If I click on 2, times 2, it doubles the speed of the pattern, and I can also half it. And sometimes you want to be half speed or twice speed to the tempo. It just depends on your song. Now next up, we've got this push-pull section which is called fill. Now, push means that the notes get played slightly before the beat, and pull means the notes get played slightly after the beat. So push is kind of like, it's like pushing the tempo to go quicker, and pull is kind of pulling it to go slower. And that's kind of not actually changing the tempo, but it gives it that kind of feel. So if I just show you what that is in reality. It's kind of subtle, but if I had a drum beat playing there, you would notice it was just slightly pull would put it slightly before the beat, sorry, push would put it slightly above the, push would put it slightly ahead of the beat, and pull will put it slightly behind the beat. I'll get back that to 0. Funny enough, I can't get it back to 0, which is strange. Anyway, put it on +1. Swing, well, swing is what swing is. It changes the 8/4 16th note. It's kind of like the third beat of a 4/4. It moves the third beat of a 4/4 to give you a bit of a what is known as a swing motion to the sound. Now I don't know if I can do it on this one or not. Okay, this sound doesn't really sound like it's got beats in the right place to create swing, but that's what that's for. Humanize is to make the sound more human or more robotic. Now tight, if I move it all the way to tight, means that the playing of the notes will be pretty much on spot quantized, so not very realistic. And if I drag it all the way to loose, then the timing of the notes will be less accurate. And if I bring it back to the center is pretty much how it was recorded. So unless you have a particular desire to play with how the notes are, how accurate the notes are to the position of the beat, I would leave it pretty much at the center with Humanize. Now what else have we got here? Well, on top of that, we've got this bit here that says instrument. Now if you're quite good at playing a guitar and you don't want to use the patterns, you can click on instrument. Apparently you can't. Oh, got to come out of micro timing first. If I click on instrument now, you'll see that we've got slightly different sections at the bottom here. Top section is still the same because it's still the same guitar. But what we've got down here is, if I go down here, you'll see that the pop-ups on here now, we've got slide up, slide down, slide up and down, pick, slide, upstroke, downstroke. So you can get it to pick in, pick in, pick in, pick in, half muted. These three are quite interesting. So when I play a note now, this is slightly different in as much as you press a note, but it doesn't do anything until you press one of these. And that's because this section here that says trigger mode is turned off. So if I'm going to turn that on, and that should be half muted, and this should be fully muted. So you can click on these to change the style of the playing. And this one here is dead note. Now we've got these key switches here, and when you put the mouse over them, it tells you what they do. And these are all just the same thing, except for this one at the end here is an auto strum. So now that changes. And what we got upstroke here. Articulation. So this is where it says articulation is open. And if I click on that one, it says half muted. That one says muted. So you can see which one you've got there. Now we've got the upstroke written here, which is the playing style. So if I click on this one here, that goes to strum auto. Now if I want to just upstroke, where is the strokes? There we are. Upstroke is this one. So if I click on that, this obviously is a section for people who know how to play a guitar and they want to use this section to be a bit more refined in what the playing style is, so you can choose whether you're upstroking, downstroking, putting it onto auto, moving between open, muted, half muted, deads and that. You've still got the damp down here, so now the pitch bend has actually gone back to being a pitch bend on this one. And once again, you can put a key scale in. Or not. And this section will always tell you what chord you're playing. Now finally, having shown you all these different bits, the last thing I wanted to show you is that most of this is actually controllable by MIDI. And if you right mouse click on one of the dials or knobs, you'll see it comes up and says Learn MIDI CC. And if you click on that and then press on a controller, what have I got on mine? I've got some here. Let's have a go. So if we click on the Learn MIDI CC, and then if I just move this controller, beyond that you can click on Save As, and you can save a preset as your own preference. There's some just details about Sparkle themselves from that one there. And what have we got here? This allows you to adjust the size of the window for the plugin, which is handy if you're using a smaller or larger screen and you want to adjust it. And that is pretty much it.